I think John Gilstrap described my overall overseeing of the program as being the guy who likes to watch the grenades go off. And as I said to John, it's my job to assemble the grenades. This is the best because we've discovered if over the years John's been co-hosting here, Mr. Gilstrap. We've got two Johns here today. And you've been, 3 years now, John? Yeah. So there are some things that get John, that get the fuse going. And one of those is when you call him a liberal.
No,
it was talking points.
It was when she said...
No, let me finish.
All right.
Right. And so when she said that he was spouting talking points, and the assumption was that it was John Gilstrap who was spouting liberal talking points, John goes, careful. and at that point, I immediately I got out the popcorn, and I just kind of sat down because I knew what was coming next.
I did too.
I knew what was coming next. I'll tell you that right now. It was going to be show worthy, I'll tell you that.
I'd like to say I'm over it, but I'm not sure I am.
I don't think you are. It may take a little while. But I have to tell you, it was fun. It was fun to watch. Our next guest is Flip Orley. He's going to join us by telephone here. He has reinvented comedy hypnosis, which I think is a good thing to transition to, transforming it from old school vaudeville into a high-energy laugh-out-loud experience for modern audiences. He's known for his TV appearances on Today, Entertainment Tonight, Maury, and Comic Strip Live. Flip blends stand-up comedy with spontaneous, unscripted hypnosis that's different every night. And in the very near future, he's going to be at the Apollo Theater. Let's say good morning right now to Flip Orley. Flip, good morning. You're on with Rob, John, and John. Great to have you.
Well, good morning, y'all. How you doing?
We are well. At least I think I'm answering this in a completely conscious
It's
state.
funny, we were discussing in the break when I heard that there was a hypnotist coming on. I thought, well, maybe it's good he's not in studio.
Hey, who's spewing these liberal talking points?
Easy.
It was Gilstrap there, I think.
No, he wasn't stealing them. It was falsely assigned to him.
Yes, by our last guest. So, and then John Doyle stepped in and said, "Excuse me, I'm the liberal on the show." Flip's going to be at the Apollo this Saturday, by the way. Flip, how many shows are you doing this weekend?
I'm doing one show at the Apollo. It's my first time there, and unfortunately, I don't think I'll be able to get back there for 6 months to a year. So this is your one chance to come see that show. And you know what? Here's the thing. The volunteers are always funnier than they could possibly imagine they've been in their entire adult lives. And the audience, whether you know someone on stage or not, just laughs at the creativity and how much fun it is and how unique and surprising it is. I do shows where people come up to me like years later, like, we're still talking about your show from 10 years ago. So I'm really excited to bring that to the Apollo.
So how do you hypnotize a person that fast and get them to be funny on stage?
So I don't do, a lot of other hypnotists will try something that's very dramatic and it's really quick. And first of all, I think it's jarring to the volunteer, and I don't think it looks believable to the audience. So my induction's a little bit slower. I do a progressive relaxation thing where I get people to focus and concentrate and breathe, and for their bodies to feel good. And then little by little, they start drifting into a hypnotic sleep, which is different from like a night's sleep, because all you're doing is you're pulling your creativity and your imagination forward, and you're setting aside your objectivity and your analytical ability for your creativity.
Mr. Gilstrap. Okay,
what you just, I'm a novelist. That's what I do for a living. And I call it the zone, where when I'm writing it, when a really good day, the reality of the story I'm writing is more vivid than the reality of my chair in my office and all. I'm kind of actually being creative in the scene I'm writing. Is that kind of a hypnotic state? Is that kind of what you're describing?
That is not kind of. That's exactly what it is. And, I mean, the thing of it is, I don't want to get all technical or anything, but all hypnosis ultimately is self-hypnosis, because whether you get in the zone yourself, right, or whether there's a hypnotist who's talking you through your conscious awareness to get to the zone, it's you who's doing it. So you hear athletes talk about that all the time where they're in the zone. Suddenly the guy shooting the free throws, it's like the hoop looks so much bigger, or the guy at bat, it's like the ball seems like it's coming at me slower. And so your mind really focuses in a way that's very unconscious, very zone-like. And that's exactly what I'm helping people to achieve on stage.
Okay, let me ask you this then. Because on those days, my wife will complain it takes me forever to come out. You know, it's not like, I'm stuck in the chair, but it takes me a long time to fully re-engage. Is there a trick to cutting it off fast?
There's absolutely a trick to doing it. And in fact, the thing of it is, as an example, I don't want people on stage with me for 2 hours saying funny things, doing funny things, laughing, having the audience laugh, and then to go home, like a pseudo zombie, and then, taking hours to sort of emerge from this zone-like state. So as the hypnotist, there are absolute suggestions you can give, which I do every night, to help people wake up, air finger quote, wake up quickly, and to feel rested and strong. And in many cases, people report that they feel like they had 8 hours of sleep and they're energetic and their minds are clear. And yeah, there's really, in fact, if you go to the show, not even on stage, but I'll talk with you and I'll give you some hints how you can wake up more quickly so that your wife does not have that issue with you anymore.
Mr. Doyle.
Flip, when you said, I was very interested in what you were saying until you got to the point where you said, if you got me up on stage, I would lose my objectivity. Now, I consider myself a rational being, and I don't ever want to lose my objectivity, despite the fact that some of my Republican friends insist that I lost all objectivity many years ago. They are wrong.
We have objective proof, empirical proof.
Well,
would you please ease my mind about this loss of objectivity, please?
Yeah, so if I said you lost your objectivity, I misspoke. So as we get older, from like when we're kids, when you're a kid and you're playing, whatever that thing that you're doing, you sort of become that character, and it seems very real to you in the moment. As we get older, like our analytical mind doesn't let us really do that as well. So hypnosis brings forth that sort of creative part of your mind where you can set aside to some degree your objectivity to allow the creative mind to really sort of take hold. But here's the thing. Hypnosis, you're not asleep or unconscious, so you know exactly what you're saying and doing. In other words, if I were to say to you something like, okay, you're part of a group that was invaded by aliens who crash landed in your neighborhood and destroyed the homes, and you're making a nationwide tour to tell America about, this alien crash and the interaction you had with these aliens, right? So in that moment on stage, you'd be like, and then this thing crashed and there were explosions and, they stole our barbecue and this happened and that happened. But if you're thinking with your analytical or objective mind, that will seem kind of silly to you and you probably wouldn't participate. But here's the cool deal about hypnosis. You hear what you're saying, you know what you're saying, and you remember what you have said and felt and thought when the show's over. Now, on the other hand, if a unscrupulous hypnotist were to hypnotize someone and go, hey, go rob that jewelry store, right? The person is awake and aware and they know that's wrong and they're not going to do it, and they'll emerge from hypnosis and most likely call the police. So you don't lose that part of your mind that protects you from doing things that you wouldn't normally want to do, but it opens up your creativity to begin to become a part of this different situation that can be very entertaining and fun.
How does one learn to hypnotize another person, and what's your liability insurance like?
Well, anybody can learn to hypnotize people, and there's different paths to go on. I studied with a hypnotist for 3 years, and then I studied psychology and communication when I was in college. And initially I wanted to do stand-up comedy, and I got on stage initially as a comic, but I was also doing hypnosis privately with people for behavior modification and self-improvement, and then I eventually combined the two.
So in my youth growing up, I remember watching hypnotists on stage or TV shows.
Kreskin.
Yeah, right. And they would say, now I'm going to snap my fingers. When I snap my fingers, you will wake up and you will remember none of this. Is that actually legit?
It can be, and let me give you an example. Okay, let's go back to when you were in school, right? Have you ever, or let's take something more recent. Let's say you're watching a TV show or a movie, and you see an actor or an actress, and you go, oh, that's, oh, wait, that's, oh, I know who that is. That's, and all of a sudden, like, your mind just goes blank.
Yes, it
right?
does that a lot more now that I'm 62, yes.
And then like an hour later or the next day, you're like, oh, that's Tom Hanks. Oh, why didn't I know it then? So you have two kinds of memory: your long-term memory, which is in your unconscious mind, and your short-term memory, which is in your conscious mind. So yes, a hypnotist can give a suggestion, and if it's accepted by the volunteer, their conscious mind will sort of ignore what happened, and it seems like they don't have the memories. So that is legit. That's possible. On the other hand, hypnosis can also be used to uncover long-term memories that seem like they were buried from a long time ago, to help people, deal with the past or remember where they placed something or whatever. Now, part of the reason why a hypnotist doesn't want you to remember things is because in many cases they've recorded the show and they want to sell you a copy of the recorded show. And I think that's kind of gross. I mean, I don't have a problem with someone wanting to buy a recorded copy of the show, but you shouldn't hope, as the hypnotist, to hold people's memories hostage in the hopes they'll spend $50 on a tape, or in this case, a digital download. So I actually give very proactive suggestions that the volunteers remember everything, because I want them to. I mean, I want them to have fun and laugh about what happens throughout, the next days and weeks ahead. So, yeah. You can remember everything.
Does the what do you call the volunteer? Does a volunteer have to be willing? And not you're going to drag him up, but someone going to be forced by their family, going up there. He kind of grumps up and sits there and says, "You can't hypnotize me." Is that person pretty much not going to get hypnotized because he just refuses to cooperate, or can you break through?
That person is still a hypnotizable person, but in that instance, in that circumstance, would probably be a horrible volunteer. And I tell people up front, because again, I have no illusions about who I am or what I do, right? Mm-hmm. I have no special powers. I can't make you get hypnotized. And let's be real honest, if I could hypnotize anyone, anytime, anywhere, I would hypnotize the entire audience at the Apollo and let them sit there like zombies for 2 hours, and I'd go to the bar drinking for a while. Come back, tell them they had a great night, and send them home.
Sounds like you've planned this out already, Flip.
So now here's my fear. I'm not a public figure, but kind of.
Right.
My fear would be get on stage, and nobody wants that picture. Right, you don't want to do that really foolish thing where you're
Cluck like a chicken.
Yeah, that kind of thing where that really embarrassing moment, that Twitter moment that you just hate, that will be awful.
Well, so this will be maybe disappointing to the audience, but good for the volunteers. I honestly don't want any of the volunteers to embarrass themselves either, because I think they're way too creative and fun, where they can make a really entertaining show filled with laughs, where they have a good time too, but not at their expense. Mm-hmm. So, like, for instance, one of my suggestions to the volunteers, once they're deeply hypnotized, is we're going to interact with each other throughout the rest of the night, and I want you to talk a bunch, and, feel free to be verbal on the microphone, but starting now, don't tell us anything personal, and don't tell us anything that you might regret later on. Because, quite frankly, what's more important to me than even making the show fun is making sure the volunteers leave the stage happy that they volunteered. And I'll give you one more thing to think about. The people, not you, but other people, who are afraid of being embarrassed on stage getting hypnotized, actually think nothing of having 1 or 2 or 3 extra shots of tequila somewhere. And I guarantee that's going to be a bigger problem.
Flip Orley is our guest. He's performing at the Apollo this Saturday night at 7:30. You can get tickets at the Apollo Civic Theater. Sorry, yeah, that's right, apollocivictheater.org. That's where you can go to get tickets. It's one show. I think I read it's about 2 hours with an intermission. Flip, is that accurate?
I think it's probably going to be between 2 to 2.5 hours, and I'm not sure we'll have an intermission. Once I get people hypnotized, I like to roll. Now, I haven't had a chance to talk to the Apollo, but if they want an intermission, which is possible, I'll probably do it after the stand-up, but before I ask for volunteers.
All right, so you'll do how long of a stand-up act before you get into the hypnosis?
It could be anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour. I'm winging it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Can you hypnotize somebody twice? I mean,
my gosh, yeah! Each successive time, it's actually easier.
Okay,
is it possible?
See, once someone gets hypnotized, they sort of are familiar with what it feels like, and sort of how to get into that zone. And once they've sort of established that ability, then it's just easier and easier to keep getting back to it.
Well, I'll tell you, if it is in fact the zone that I was talking about, or the zone that you were describing for an athlete, as I would imagine it would be, because I ain't that. It is a wonderful place to be. It's a creative, and it's also a time warp where hours go by in minutes. And in my case, because I'm a writer, all of a sudden somehow thousands of words appeared on the page, and I don't really remember doing that.
You are your own ghostwriter.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
know. I don't really care what someone calls it, meditation or this thing or that deal or hypnosis. It's all sort of the same, but you are absolutely describing self-hypnosis, and there absolutely is a time warp. If you talk to people on stage who are deeply hypnotized, you'll go, hey, how long do you think you were up there? And they're like, I don't know, like 10 minutes. They're like, dude, you're up there for like 2 hours. And to see their face, like their jaw dropped, they're like, there's no way that's possible. So, you're describing hypnosis perfectly.
Flip, is it possible that the three of us in this room have been hypnotized at some point and never realized it?
Or don't remember it.
Confirm nor deny.
Or don't remember
Neither.
But could it work that way?
As you listen to my voice, you will like me to be your guest on the show for the rest of the show this morning.
Somehow Flip Orley is coming back as a guest every day.
Now there used
must resist. I must resist.
There used to be either the little spinning prism, or you watch the watch going back and forth and all that. Is that actually a tool, or is that just showmanship?
It's a little of both. I mean, when I first started getting on stage, I used nothing, and a buddy of mine who's a comic yelled at me. This is years ago, and I go, what's wrong? He goes, you're in show business. He goes, you need something like a pocket watch. And so to mock him and as a joke, I got a big crystal ball, like you might see someone reading fortunes out of.
Mm-hmm.
And I swear to you, I got it as a joke. I was just, kind of poking fun at my friend for, being very theatrical. And what shocked me was two things. First of all, when I pulled out the crystal ball on stage, you could literally see the volunteers' demeanor change, like, I'm
going to be sucked in.
Here's a true.
It's a really good visual focal point, and what you want people to do is be able to focus their attention, so it actually can serve to help.
Here's a true story. I was a speaker in New Zealand about 10 years ago, and at the final thing, they had a hypnotist went on stage, and he, I by God was not as the speaker. I'm not doing that. So the folks were doing their thing, and when the show was over, it turned out that one of the people in the audience had been hypnotized, and I forget exactly what the details were, but there was on a certain cue he was supposed to do something, and the hypnotist was surprised and had to take action to bring the guy out. So somebody in the audience was paying so close attention.
Yeah. Well, did you ever see the movie Office Space?
I did.
Ron Livingston. That's basically what happened.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Right. He gets hypnotized.
Well, I mean, the one thing about like Hollywood, whenever they do a movie or a TV show about some subject that's usually not accurate in terms of how something works. So like Office Space is funny, but that's not how hypnosis works. Although watching the hypnotist have a heart attack during the suggestions is priceless.
It is.
But like so, I tell the audience every night, I go, look, if you didn't want to volunteer to get up on stage, but you're kind of curious to see how hypnosis works, you don't have to be on the stage. Keep an open mind and concentrate. You can be hypnotized too. And invariably, I would say probably 50% of the shows, anywhere from 1 to 5 people in the audience gets hypnotized also. And then at some point, if there's extra room on stage, I'll ask them if they want to come up, even hypnotized, and they'll go, yeah, I'd love to, or they say, no, I'd rather not. And if they say, yeah, I'll bring them on stage and they'll become part of the show. And if they say, no, I'd rather not, I wake them up so they can watch and enjoy the show.
Flip Orley will be at the Apollo this Saturday, 7:30 show. ApolloCivicTheater.org is how you get the tickets. He is a comedian who uses hypnosis as part of the gig, too. And you can expect, as Flip said, about a 2.5-hour evening of entertainment at the Apollo this Saturday night. Flip, you've been on a lot of great shows over the years. And who would be among your favorite shows that you've participated in?
I did. I was one of the first, I'm told, entertainers to do the Today Show, where they built the stage outside on Rockefeller Plaza, and that was really, really interesting because to try to get people hypnotized on a stage outside with cabs honking their horns and screaming expletives out the window was a real challenge. And as an aside, maybe this is not a nice thing to say, but they gave, so when you're in TV, they give you like an earpiece and you're getting direction or whatever.
Yes.
They gave me the wrong feed. They gave me the director's feed. So I could hear everybody cross-talking as I'm doing the induction. And I could hear Bryant Gumbel from inside the studio going, "I'm not going out there. I'm not interviewing him. I want no part of this." That's like, and everybody, and take a slow, easy, deep breath in.
That's great.
So that was fun. There was an old cartoon called Space Ghost Coast to Coast, and I was on that, and they were absolutely mean. They were really, really mean to me. But I was thrilled to do that one, and the reason is, have you ever heard of Space Ghost Coast to Coast?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm watching that, and I'm a big fan of it, and I live in Lafayette, Louisiana. At the time I was married, and I said to my wife, I go, "Oh my gosh, I would love to be on that show." And she looked at me with a snide look, and she goes, "You're nowhere near big enough to be on Space Ghost Coast to Coast."
It's always good to have the spousal support, yeah.
Right. 2 weeks later, I was working at a club called The Punchline in Atlanta, and after the show, the executive producer of Space Coast came up to me and he goes, "I loved your show. Would you mind being on Space Coast?" So it was a real feather in my cap to come back and kind of rub that in my wife's face.
Was your wife there to hear him ask?
Hey, I got to go. We ran out of time. Flip, I appreciate you being on the show. I'm sure you have a big crowd on Saturday night.
Well, thank you all so much. I appreciate it.
Flip Orley, and again, he'll be at the Apollo this Saturday night, 7:30 show. ApolloCivicTheater.org is how you get your tickets.